We are now.
Okay. Welcome back to Goo for Science. This is going to be a quick and dirty episode because we're super busy with another project that we're going to tell you about later. I'm just going to be looking at my notes very quickly because we just don't have a lot of time to put into production for this video. So with that said, let's get into this business. I want to talk about disinfectants because we've been seeing a lot of homemade disinfectant recipes going around, and some of them are not very good ideas. So, every now and then people need a reminder to, not fog their office with bleach. Okay, so let's get started. With disinfectants, the coverage time and the coverage of the area and the setting time matter. So when you're spraying down a surface, you want to be 6 to 8 inches away from the surface so that you don't get a lot of cleaner particles in the air that you would then breathe in. So you want to be close-ish to the surface and get a nice, good coverage. And then you want to let that set for as long as the cleaner tells you to let it set. So always follow your instructions on your cleaner bottles. When you make your own cleaners, you don't get all of those instructions. So, here's some pro tips. Bleach needs to set for 10 to 15 minutes. Vinegar, I wouldn't recommend using. Alcohol needs to set for 10 to 15 minutes to truly disinfect. Did I say ethanol? Ethanol and alcohol, like rubbing alcohol. Sorry, it's hard to stay organized. And the other thing that's important is human exposure. For example, you don't want to be spraying stuff around the room and then breathing it in. If you're going to spray down a room, leave the room when you're done spraying and let it settle for a few minutes. Just let all the particles rest out of the air and then they don't go in your lungs. I'm a fan of not having bleach in my lungs. I don't know about you. Another thing that I want to point out is that Health Canada has a list of approved disinfectants and a sub-list of approved disinfectants for COVID. And so we'll put that link in the description. The EPA also has a list. And I believe I shared, if I didn't, I will again. I shared a chemical and engineering news article about disinfectants and how we know that they should be working against the COVID-19 virus. I also want to point out a bunch of things about making disinfectants at home. Maybe you can't get access to the cleaners that are on the approved list and you want to try a kind of home remedy just to be sure and on the safe side. And so as a reminder, do not mix bleach and ammonia. It makes a poison gas. Do not mix bleach and vinegar. It also makes a poison gas. Do not mix hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. It makes peracetic acid, which is corrosive and possibly toxic depending on the concentration, so just don't risk it. Bleach and alcohol make a toxic chemical that I'm not going to name because I really don't want people to try it, so do not mix bleach and rubbing alcohol. In general, don't mix bleach with anything, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If you are trying to make an alcohol-based cleaner, the concentration should be above 60%. And then it needs to set for 10 to 15 minutes to really get the spores and broad spectrum microbes. So do not dilute it and do not try to increase the concentration of alcohol on your own because I don't know about you, but I'm allergic to blowing up. So don't do it. Alcohol-based cleaners work by disrupting the protective coating around the virus and then also disrupting the proteins that make up the virus. We talked about bleach never mixes well with anything, and peroxide isn't great to mix with anything either. The reason is these are oxidizing agents, so they will, go up to a molecule and say, oh, that's a nice oxygen you have there. It'd be a shame if someone were to turn it into a free radical and then yeets it out of there. And that messes with the protein shape. So the way that the virus tries to get into your cells is, imagine you have a thief breaking into your house by drilling out your locks. Hydrogen peroxide and bleach would snap their fingers and turn the drill bit into a toothpick, and then they can no longer get in. It just doesn't work. So they are very effective in disrupting virus behavior. Now, some cleaners I've seen have included vinegar, And I'm uncertain about using this as a disinfectant, mainly because it's not on any of the listed approved disinfectant compounds or solutions listed by the EPA or Health Canada. So I would imagine that that's because either there's other problems with it in terms of the concentration and toxicity for what needs to be effective, or it's just not effective for broad spectrum microbes. So vinegar, I mean, sure, why not? But don't mix it with stuff, and don't fool yourself that it's going to be perfectly okay to do that. If you have an option for something else, use that. I know it doesn't feel like much to be doing washing your hands and keeping your space clean, but remember that you're raining doom on millions of your enemies. Everybody stay safe and happy.